Pakistan says the number of Afghan refugees repatriated from Pakistan.
32,000 Cameroonian refugees are living in host communities.
Europe's refugee crisis.
The flood of migrants into Europe today in Europe's migrant crisis.
Hi, my name is Svenja, and together with my teammates Bethlehem, Clarkson and Raisin, we've been asking a question that feels increasingly urgent. When people talk about migration online, what are they actually doing? Are they describing reality or are they constructing it? To answer this, we turn to Michel Foucault's concept of discourse. For Foucault, language doesn't just reflect the world, it produces it. When politicians and social media users label migration as a threat, as a burden, or as an invasion, they're not just describing people crossing borders. They're making exclusion feel like common sense.
We looked at 4 different countries: Germany, Ethiopia, Pakistan, and Cameroon. And we asked, how is migration discourse being weaponized on social media? And what does that do to democracy?
But before we dive in, one important distinction. These countries are not dealing with the same kind of migration. Germany's debate is about people arriving from outside the EU. In Ethiopia, Cameroon, and Pakistan, the crisis is largely internal displacement driven by ethnic conflicts, regional instability, and security crackdowns within their own borders. This distinction shapes everything that follows.
Germany is parliamentary federal democracy. Decisions require coalitions, compromise built into the system. But starting in 2015, the culture of compromise was put under enormous pressure by the arrival of Syrian refugees and by the political force that mobilized against them.
Researchers like Johannes Hilge documented how right-wing populist actors, especially the AfD, systematically use social media to spread narratives: mass immigration, Islamization, foreign crime. The platforms were Facebook, X, and YouTube. The strategy was simple: flood the zone, provoke outrage, and frame everything as the people versus corrupt elites.
And they didn't do it alone. Networks of ordinary citizen influencers amplified this message, not as obvious propaganda, but as concerned voices. The hashtag split of 2015 shows it perfectly. One event, 2 completely separate political realities running in parallel online.
Ethiopia's story shows what happens when migration discourse is not just polarizing, it's lethal.
The country is a federal republic with a fragile ethnic federalism, and the Tigray conflict erupted in 2020 turned displacement into weapon. The dominant platform is Facebook. The Digital Forensic Research Lab documented 27 cases of influencers actively inciting ethnic violence on the platform. Not vague hostility, but direct calls to action against displaced.
In Cameroon, the Anglophone separatist conflict produces its own displacement crisis. And both sides, the government and the separatist fractions, run Facebook pages not function as a public square, but at partisan recruitment channels. When it got out of hand, the government's response was blunt. They shut the internet off for 280 days. That's not media regulation. That's a democratic system using censorship to win an information war.
Pakistan operates differently. WhatsApp and YouTube dominate, and the state exerts pressure on social media, while also being its target. The most striking shift happened in late 2023. Afghan refugees, previously framed through the lens of Islamic solidarity, were suddenly recast as a security threat. The government announced the deportation of over 1.7 million Afghans. The backlash on X was immediate. Pakistani public figures, academics, and ordinary users challenged the narrative. This is a rare moment. Social media used not to amplify the exclusionary discourse, but to contest it, which tells us something important about the tool.
4 countries, very different contexts, but pattern is emerging. Before we draw the comparison, let's hear from someone who has studied this from the inside.
To deepen our analysis, we spoke with Dr. Leonie Jantzer, a migration and refugee researcher at the University of Siegen. Her work sits at the intersection of migration studies, racism, and critical security research, which makes her the ideal person to talk to about what migration discourse actually does to democratic societies.
I don't want to deny that, not at all. If I speak now again for the German context, yeah, kind of a better fiction area.
How has social media changed the way migration is talked about in political debates? Let's hear from the expert.
I would say we're getting more closer and getting more information about situations we didn't have access before. For example, I was thinking about the documentation of the violence that is happening on the Mediterranean Sea, or the documentation that's happening of the violence in the desert when people try to cross the Sahara, or when people try to cross the Mediterranean Sea. So we get more information, more people can see what's happening in these difficult, very horrific situations. Yeah, I feel this makes, at the first time, it created a lot of empathy, but I feel like the more we see those videos, the more we see those pictures, we get really cold, or we don't really get touched anymore by that. Or when I say we, I mean like the the majority, not everyone, but the kind of a majority, I would say. And what has also changed, I think, since we have social media, or since it's so present, is that more people get involved in the discussion, and that so this has disadvantages and advantages, I would say, because on the one hand, we can say everybody can take part in the discussion, even marginalized people, even people on the move, even people who are in really horrific situations. They can claim their needs. They can make videos and make testimonies and share them via social media, and they can be heard. But they can also be right-wing, or people who are from the right-wing part can also share their opinions, or can destroy kind of discussions. So I would say there are advantages of this situation, that more and more people are taking part in the discussion, are sitting under the same table, kind of. For example, when an incident again at the Mediterranean Sea, a boat has been shot by the Libyan Coast Guard, which is actually something that happens not every day, but very regularly. But maybe once it is recorded and people have heard about it, there's a big scandal about it. But I feel like one day after, or maybe some days or some hours later, nobody talks about it anymore. So it goes up and down our emotions, kind of, and also our attention to something. This is, I think, one symptom of social media. And another thing is also, I would say, that the discourse of secularization has really increased, I would say, or is getting worse. Because when I say secularization, I would say there's the secularization of people on the move. So it feels like I have the impression that the perspective or perception of people on the move as a threat is getting even worse, and every action or everything that has been done by a migrant or by a refugee, which was a crime or something, is recorded and published and scandalized and so on, and this leads to more and more secularization of this discourse. And I'd say this is really a bad development.
There is one more question that need to be answered, which is what is the relationship between media distrust and the success of exclusionary migration narratives?
The distrust or mistrust in media is not only explainable with racism and xenophobia, which is present. I don't want to deny that, not at all. If I speak now again for the German context, but I would say the same. I could also say for the United States or for other Western countries. Kind of say this xenophobia and racism is present. I would also say I could say it for North African countries, where we also perceive a lot of hate and violence against people on the move. Okay. Also the fear of the proper future, the fear of the proper ownership. There are so many insecurities, uncertainties in our world, kind of, I would say, and people are touched by that in several ways. But I think this comes into this distrust and this feeling of who's telling me the truth and who's coming to our country, who could maybe take what actually belongs to me. So this feeling, something belongs to me and my proper future, my proper ownership is getting more and more insecure, and I cannot really control it. I think this leads, or is another add on this mistrust, on this skepticism, on this maybe hate even against people on the move, or against also not only against also politicians, but I feel like people on the move or migrants, they are kind of a protection area, or they are so not protection, but I feel like they are made guilty for something that I don't really are guilty for, and I'm really scared of that. This accusation that they perceive will also be put on different marginalized groups, such as people who are maybe don't have a house, who are homeless, people who maybe get social support. We should really kind of see more what is our collective force, and not really always make different people guilty for something that they are not guilty for. I don't know if this makes sense.
Is there a way forward? Can platforms or governments actually counter this kind of discourse without censorship?
Yeah, as I already said now at the end, I would say yes, there should be a way forward. We cannot now sit down, cross our, I don't know, don't do anything anymore. So I feel like really these uncertainties, as I mentioned them, they are present everywhere, and they only read the really rich people who maybe don't fear anything because they can protect themselves. But I think everybody's kind of concerned, and my answer to this would be, for example, we should create collectives, we should share our fears, we should not get back in our private and secure place, but we should better look for allies, or make connections with other people. I researched I had my dissertation about asked the question to refugees or who stays in Germany, and police officers who work in Germany with migrants and refugees. I was asking them, what security and safety mean to you? How do you make security and safety? How do you create it? And refugees, they answered, for example, not directly, but more indirectly, that they create collectives. They think about, okay, maybe the police don't protect me, but I want, with other people, I want to create a safe space, or I have this safe network. So I think this collectivity needs to be internalized by more and more people, by all of us, kind of, for example, because we don't know how it is going to continue. We don't know if there's going to be a war. We don't know if the police will protect us. We cannot count on that. Police are another discussion, but I think we should really think, how can we get more stronger, instead of individualizing all of us, and what is currently the case, for example. And this can, for example, be supported by politicians or by the government. This can be supported. I wouldn't really say censors is now the reason, or is now the good way to do. But I feel like I support, or I would really encourage the population as such to try to collectivize each other, and also to to be brave and say something against the racist discourse, because I feel like currently, when I speak again now for Germany, but I could also say this for in other European countries, where we currently listen mostly to or give a lot of space to people who have hate and racist or xenophobia or classic or really sexist speeches, and we give them a lot of space, but we need to contradict that, and we need to also give us space to give an opposition, another opinion on that. So I feel like we need to encourage us in different situations. And maybe one final thing I would say, when we come back now again to migration and flight and refugees, I'd say instead of protecting ourselves here, we did also again address the causes of migration, for example, and why people have to leave the countries. It's not about I don't know, religion or something, what people might have say, no, it's about exploitation, about war, extractions, different economic interests, and we can, as a population, we can also address and problematize the situation, and we should do that globally, even if it's not totally clear who is responsible for what. But in a more broader sense, I'd say there are a lot of problems we could not name and also criticize, and I think I see the power in the population, which can be encouraged by politics, but I feel like currently we should do something.
Now, let's bring the 4 cases together. 3 patterns run through all of them, but important differences in how they play out.
Germany's debate lives on X and YouTube, relatively visible, partially fact-checked platforms. In Ethiopia and Cameroon, Facebook's dominance meant incitement travel faster with less accountability. Pakistan's WhatsApp ecosystem is almost invisible, encrypted, unmonitorable, and deeply personal. This platform does not determine what people say, but it determines how far it travels and whether anyone can stop it. This leads to polarization, and through this, pluralism as a democratic value disappears.
In Germany, research from Gutenberg University Mainz found that active media distrust tripled between 2008 and 2019. Not because mainstream media got worse, but because right-wing populists ran deliberate campaign to delegitimize it. Lügenpresse, lying press, became a slogan. In the other 3 cases, state media was already seen as a partisan tool from the start. People turned to social media not because they preferred it, but because they had no credible alternatives. The result is the same. Social media becomes the arena where reality is contested.
In all 4 cases, migration stopped being a policy question and became a mobilization tool. Hiljay's analysis of German right-wing populism and the DFR Lab's documentation of Ethiopia make the same point, framing displaced people as a threat converts public grief about real problems, jobs, security, belonging, into a political fuel. Foucault's point about discourse constructing reality stops being abstract the moment you see Facebook posts calling for violence against migrants or an AFD ad framing refugees as criminals.
But here is where the cases diverge sharply. In Germany, the discourse is primarily used to win elections. In Ethiopia and Cameroon, it has been directly linked to physical violence against displaced populations. That's not a small difference. It's the difference between democratic backsliding and active conflict. Pakistan sits somewhere in between, a hybrid space where the state and opposition both weaponize migration narratives, and where the line between winning the discourse and justifying repression is blurry. We are comparing different political systems, very different migration context, and very different media ecosystems, using secondary sources, not original fieldwork. We are also limited by language. Most of Ethiopian and Cameroonian social media data that we could access was filtered through English language research. What's said in Amharic or French on local Facebook pages may look very different.
We also want to flag something. Migration is not just a single phenomenon. Applying Foucault's framework across all 4 cases is productive, but it risks flattening the enormous difference between a Syrian family arriving in Munich and a Tigrayan community displaced by ethnic cleansing within their own country. Practical lens fits, but it must be used carefully.
Social media platforms need to take accountability seriously, not through internet shutdowns, but through transparent, context-sensitive moderations.
Governments, especially in democratic states, need to make the case of pluralism loudly and clearly. Silence in the face of Lügenpresse campaigns is not neutrality.
Education matters. Critical media literacy is about asking, who made this, why, and for whom? It's not a luxury. It is democratic necessity.
And the public debates about migration needs to come back into actual spaces, communities, schools, town halls, not just some anonymous thread where the most extreme voices dominate.
Words move people. That's not a metaphor. In every country we looked at, language about migration didn't just describe a phenomenon. It shaped how populations were treated, which communities were protected and which were left exposed. That's what Foucault meant, and that's what our data showed. Thank you for watching.